Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We're buzzing as always. Today, we're coming in hot from the West Coast. Well, I'm still on the East Coast in Toronto, but our guest is buzzing from the West Coast, coming in hot from San Fran, beautiful SF. Today, we have Bradley Cam, also known as Brad, who's the co-founder of Unstoppable Domains, a Web3 domain name provider working to onboard the world onto Web3. Prior to Unstoppable Domains, he co-founded Talkable, a marketing tech company backed by Combinator. We always love to see that. Brad also holds a BA in Poli-Sci from Emory University. Super pumped to have you on. Brad, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much for having me.
What's San Fran like nowadays? How's San Fran treating everyone?
You know, it's quiet. It's quieter than it used to be. But it's nice. Like, startup community is still here. Crypto community is still here. It's just most of the parties are somewhere else.
The crazy exodus, I've talked about this so many times on the show. It still intrigues me so much so. Is the buzz still there? Is the startup buzz? Can you still feel it in the air?
You can a bit. You know, I think that it's so like the startup founders are there, but then the rest of the teams aren't there anymore. Everybody else is. So like you don't see it as much. It's kind of invisible. You don't see like kids walking around with backpacks absolutely everywhere, or like people talk about their startup at every coffee shop anymore, but they're still there. And the early stage community is still there, and the crypto community is still there in force. But I think it's split now with New York, which is not the way that it used to be before COVID.
And you moved to San Fran back in the day. If I did my prep correctly here, I want to say that was around 10 years ago in 2011. That's when you founded Talkable, which is sort of that, referral marketing company, I believe, back in the day from YC. Love hearing any YC stories. Do you have any crazy stories from PG or anyone of the like, or any of the classic, move fast to break things, like anything that really stuck out from your time at YC that you still use today at Unstoppable, or anything of the like?
So I moved in 2012. I had probably, I think, one walk with PG. That's what he used to do. He would take every team and then go on a 15-minute walk around Mountain View with you, and then take you back to the front, and there'd be a line of teams behind you, and he'd drop you off and pick up the next team. And during that 15-minute talk, he told us, we had this idea about how we were going to, it was sort of related to being able to invest or like predict which companies that were using Talkable were going to be successful. We were kind of excited about this idea, and he goes, "You guys aren't going to care about this in a year. This sounds like a distraction. I would just focus on your core business." And he was right. So a couple months later, we realized that it was really a distraction and not our core business. And then we went back to doing what we had intended to do, and it worked out. So just a good reminder that somebody who has experience and has seen the patterns, they know what a tangent looks like. And that stuck with me a bit. I try to reflect, is this really the thing we set out to do or not? If it's not, I think you need to really question whether or not it's the right thing. I hear all of this like pro pivot ideas kind of out there in the world, and I'm a little skeptical. I think, it can work, but there's a reason why you decided to do this crazy, absurd thing with your life called startup, where it's like almost an irrational decision to just hyper focus on this one thing and like give up all these other parts of life. So to just throw that away for another thing, I think that you might burn yourself out that way. So usually there's something that inspired you to go work on a particular thing. That's why I'm skeptical of a lot of pivots.
Well said. It's true. The whole pivot culture is so front of mind and accepted nowadays, where it's like, if you don't think that your moral compass and North Star can work, it's like, just throw your hands in the air, say fuck it, and pivot. And maybe the pivot will be the thing. It is. It's a little counterintuitive. What a vet move by PG though. Like, talk about, getting two birds stoned at once there. It's like, he gets to walk all day, he gets to get his steps in, get his exercise, perhaps his zone 2 cardio, while also providing that mentorship to all the YC companies. Like, that's the biggest vet move I've ever heard. I love that.
It's a great life. If my work allowed me to wander around every day, like I would definitely do it. I do a lot of walking meetings, actually. Like, whenever people ask me to go to coffee, I always wind up taking them on like a pretty serious cardio walk up and down hills and stuff like that. Because I'm sitting all day. So if I'm going to meet you in person, I don't want to go sit in a restaurant.
Yeah, no, that's huge, especially in San Fran. You guys have good enough weather to do that. In Toronto, it's a little tough. Do you have any like any workflows or procedures for your walking meetings? Because that's something that I absolutely adore as well. I've gotten a lot of feedback for like both positive and negative, being like, "Oh wow, Matt, this is great. I'm gonna incorporate this into my own life." And I've also gotten the, why do I need to go for a walk with you? Like, why can't it just be face to face? And it's like, well, if we're gonna do it, just like you said, if we're gonna go have a cup of Joe together, we might as well have a cup of Joe, go for a walk, get 10,000 steps in over the case of, I don't know, hour and a half, and get two birds stoned at once. Any process or procedures or anything to make the whole process a lot smoother on your end and their end?
Well, you're right. So San Francisco weather is almost always nice, so you can do it pretty much any day of the year. But I go like super, I guess, lazy. I go to a spot that's 5 minutes walk from my house. Sometimes I even suggest that people come and walk on my roof because I got a really nice roof where you can see the whole city. And it's legitimately a nice experience. Like those two walks are, I would consider them to be almost destinations on their own. So people tend to enjoy it, and I think I've got a 100% success rate so far. No complaints.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take notes, get my success rate up a little higher. Let's get into you and crypto, and more specifically you and Unstoppable Domains. While doing research for you in the show, I saw, read, heard, whatever you want to call it. You read a Wired article back in 2011, and this is what got you not hooked, but intrigued and interested in Bitcoin, and the rest is history. Is that true?
No, not quite. I read the Wired article, which I think a lot of people read in 2011, The Rise and Fall of Bitcoin. And then I said, oh, that's cool. And then I set the magazine aside and didn't think about it again for another 18 months. And then 18 months later, I moved to San Francisco in 2012, and I moved to this hacker house called 20 Mission in the Mission District in San Francisco. And it was a Bitcoin hub. So there was a Bitcoin exchange that got launched in the basement before Coinbase. There was a Bitcoin media channel that was running in 2013. They were doing meetups going back to 2012. Vitalik gave a talk in the courtyard before Ethereum went live. Basically, everybody who was there was somehow involved in crypto. When I moved to the city, I knew one person, and he lived in this house. He was a good friend of mine from Atlanta. And everybody I met was somehow involved in Bitcoin. It was almost like the community I landed in, the Bitcoin future was like the default future. Like people were just like, well, of course. And Bitcoin was, sub $1 billion market cap at this time. Like there was no reason to be so confident. But when you put yourself around a whole bunch of technologists, they see that future as inevitable. And so that's what I walked into when I moved to San Francisco. I was very lucky. So I read the white paper around then, started following it, started buying soon after that, started going to events and et cetera. And, was kind of following along in the background while working on my marketing tech company. And then a few years later, I can no longer sit on the sidelines. So it was really just luck of being dropped into this group of people, and many of them, later went on to do something, pretty awesome in the crypto space.
What's that famous quote? It's like 3 most important things in life: who you marry, where you live, and I forget the third. I'm butchering it. It's something big. But anyways, that's number 1 with you though. It's like, if you wouldn't have been in San Fran back in 2012, when I believe you found out about it, like perhaps you would have never known. It's crazy about your circle.
Or never paid attention. I would have heard about it, like I think a lot of people, but I wouldn't have realized.
No action. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have realized the weight of it. Because, you read a news story and you're like, okay, well, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's real. Maybe that's not. But when you're surrounded by people that really understand the tech, everybody was mining, everybody was, buying, everybody was, trying it out. People were building, Bitcoin hardware wallets, all sorts of stuff. So it made it feel real in a way that maybe it wouldn't have if I'd been from a distance. So I really do believe this, that like if you want to get into something, it's good to surround yourself with the people who are deep in it. And, I think, I hate to use the term insider, but I think that almost every industry has this kind of institutional knowledge, and a lot of it is shared, person to person. or kind of collective understandings after conversations and dinners and things like that. So I think it works that way with Hollywood, with entertainment. I think it works that way with politics in DC. I think it works that way with finance in New York. So I think it's like there are these hubs for these industries, and San Francisco was the spot for crypto for probably almost the past decade.
Very well said. Such an underrated and extremely important part of life is where you are and who you surround yourself with. Let's jump a couple years, and you moved to SF. You work on your marketing tech company. You and everyone else there loves Bitcoin. You are now an investor in a couple companies in the space. And then your co-founder comes up with you for an idea about a consumer-friendly blockchain domain/naming startup. Too good of an opportunity for you to pass up on. The rest is history. 5-6 years later, 2022, you guys are biggest naming company in the space and have a vision to onboard billions of people to Web3. Before we get into it, I'd love if you could give me the quick pitch just to sort of set the foundation for Unstoppable Domains.
Yeah, well, so your Web3 domain name is supposed to be your identity on the internet, kind of like your username on the internet. And the difference is that you own it. You own it forever. You control it. And this enables you to do things like control all your own data, control your profile, control your reputation. It can work across all sorts of apps. It's kind of a paradigm shift for the way that the internet works. Today, your identity is controlled by social media companies or finance companies like PayPal, et cetera. And if you turn that around and you put it in the hands of the people, I think you get a much more powerful product, and you get much more security, autonomy, freedom.
When you guys started UD, Unstoppable Domains, to me, and I'm pulling this is strictly, this is hogwash, this is fake news I'm about to say. Maybe it's not, but this is, I have no merit or no stats or data based on this. The biggest problem when I onboard friends to crypto is the, X character, whatever, let's say it's ETH, 26 characters, whatever the case may be. I'm setting sometimes 40 characters, hexadecimal address. It's like, hey, Brad, you owe me $100 and I send you 0x1, blah, 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 blah. That's absolutely nonsensical. They see that and then they go, okay, Matt, what if I add an extra letter or number? You're hooped. It's going to the abyss. That seems like the no-brainer for why you and the team started Unstoppable Domains. Perhaps it's right, perhaps it's not. We'll find out. And now it just seems so apparent that the whole data play seems like a bigger, more important. Humans are now cognizant of how much Web2 has taken our data, harvested it, profited off of it, given none of it back to us. In return, we only got the usability and the nice UI and UX of these big behemoth Fortune 500 Web2 companies. Am I right in that in regards to it starting off with like the shit show of the letters and numbers and making it easy, like brad.nft or brad.crypto, and now present day it's about the data play?
Yeah, totally right. So when we started, I would say going back to 2014, there was this assumption in Bitcoin meetups. If you go around and you talk to people would just assume that the long characters were eventually going to be hidden. Like people would talk about it in terms of like, this thing's never going to go mainstream until, we have some sort of username system. People weren't designing one or sure what it was going to look like or how it was going to work or anything like that. But there was kind of this default of it's only going to be for enthusiasts until we have easy to use names. So I remember talking with Matt, my co-founder, about this general idea probably back in 2014, I think it was. So that was just an assumption that we had hanging out with crypto people at that time. And fast forward to 2016, 2017, when Ethereum came out and you started to see all of these, they didn't call them this yet, but NFT apps coming out. Then we realized, hey, this is a format that we could use to build Web3 domain names. And that was the starting point. And we had this vague idea that the internet is broken and this tech should also, at a very basic level, if you have a private key, if you have a public-private key pair, then you can put a user in charge of their own security. And so we knew that was true, and we thought that would make a better internet. And so we always thought, we're going to start with crypto, then we're going to make the internet better by giving every user a public-private key pair with, through their domain name, and that's going to make the internet better. What we didn't, I think, appreciate at the beginning was how totally screwed the regular internet was. And at, say, 2017 time, when this idea was first getting baked, I don't think that was quite so obvious yet.
Yeah.
I think it was starting to peak. There was like a little bit of Facebook anger over the 2016 election stuff. And so it was starting, but it was
Nothing
very,
like
very
now,
early.
though.
Yeah.
Nothing like now.
And here's another random quirk of history. Free speech was a liberal cause at that time. It was the people that were talking about free speech were saying like Hong Kong protesters need to be freed and all of these all of these things. It was not a domestic issue at all. It was not a conservative issue at all.
5 years ago, we're talking.
Yeah, very, very recent. So the world has changed a lot in the way that people view these problems. And then, things just kind of exploded somewhere around 2018 time where all of a sudden everyone in the world realized, hey, the internet is just totally screwed. Like social media companies control everything. They're able to decide who gets to say what. They're making all this money off of our data. Like we saw a study pretty recently saying that there's your data on average gets sold 1,000 times per day. So per person, 1,000 times per day, which is just it's just an outrageous economy where we are the cattle essentially being sold. We have no idea. And all of that, I think, has just kind of blasted into the mainstream very recently. There's Netflix movies, The Social Dilemma, et cetera.
Yep.
And the funny thing about all of that is they say, okay, the internet is broken, it's bad. And then it kind of gets to the end and they're like, and we have no idea what to do about it. So tell your kids to turn off their phones. Like that's the solution that we get to. And Web3 has a solution. I think it's going to take a while to play out, but there's actually a way to do this better. And it all comes down to put user in control. And that's how you get security and safety and autonomy.
Brad, you can't stop there. You got to keep going. How do you put the user in control? That was gold. Keep the train going.
Yeah. So it's super. So the starting point is the domain name, which is your username. And so I have brad.crypto. That is my universal username across apps. So you can send me money to it in dozens of different crypto wallets and exchanges. I can log into dApps using it. And I have this digital profile. It's kind of like a social media profile page. I control the data. The only way you can access it is if I sign a message with the private key that controls the domain name. And then I'm able to log into dApps and have verified information about me. It's the equivalent of imagine that there was a new Facebook that came out. And instead of having to go and upload your photos and connect with your friends and build content and spend 2 years building up your profile, just with 2 clicks, all of your previous activity that you wanted to come along with you just comes along.
It's like when you get a new iPhone and you just put your old one beside the new one and it automatically syncs everything. That's like the biggest treat ever to me. I cannot believe how smooth that is. The best. Exactly.
And now imagine that is every app on the internet.
Huge.
And so a new app comes about. And people think okay, well, why is that so important? The reason it's so important is competition leads to better user experiences. So we don't have competition right now. We have Facebook and they are our app and they're our data storage. And giving them the data storage role, that's the thing that messed us up. And that's the thing that Unstoppable wants to change. So if they're no longer your data store, if they're just an app, then they're no longer in a position to control you. Instead, they have to work for your love. They have to give you an amazing experience because if they don't, 2 clicks and you're going to a competitor.
Yeah.
There could be 100 Facebooks and they could all pop up all the time, but there's almost no new social media apps that compete directly with the old ones. They build new features sometimes, but they almost never compete with the old ones initially because the data storage piece. The data storage piece is just such a monopoly that users can't get out. Users are stuck. And that I think is the real promise of a Web3 identity system is it's just trivial for me to move around on the internet. So that's one thing, the flexibility. I think the other thing, and this part's really not well understood unless you look at the revenues of some of these giant companies, but your data is worth a lot. Somebody is making lots of money off of this. And what's going to happen if you control your identity is you make that money. You make that well. People will literally pay you for proving certain information about yourself. They might pay you in cash. They might pay you in rewards, like an app gives you a special reward because of who you are and what your reputation is. But ultimately, that wealth is going to go to you instead of going to all of these big ad providers. And I think that's the other really big piece. You're going to get competition, and then you're going to actually be able to keep and build wealth from the things you do online.
I think that the last part you talked about, how the consumer can own and profit, monetize their data. I think that's huge because, life's all about incentives, and the user's going to want like hey, Brad, if I'm going to sign up on Unstoppable and get a Matt.crypto, which I assume your co-founder has, by the way. Yeah, I'm sure he does. One of the, mom, dad, I love you guys, but perhaps maybe picked a more unique name than Matthew, but we'll save that story for another day. The data, that's the point where it's like, now that you guys are letting users know that in a couple of years, they will have 100% rights and there will be a multitude of ways to profit off their own data. That's a big enough value prop / incentive to get people in the door. But until then, right now, there's really not that big of a value prop, right? Right now, the sort of the workflow and transactional system is I give you my data and in return, I get to use a really solid app that all of my peers also use. You know what I mean? Like there's no real big value prop, and it's going to happen, 3 to 5 years, most likely?
I hope sooner. I think you're going to start to see some things in 2023. I think you're going to start to see some, rewards and things like that in 2023 inside of the Unstoppable ecosystem. There's already some very basic things like you can get a free domain inside of a low value free domain inside of certain apps if you log in and share certain data. So Unstoppable is already offering a reward. I think other apps are going to start offering rewards, and that's going to be kind of the form it takes. Is rather than somebody says, hey, will you sell me every personal piece of information about you for $30 per month, which is kind of like closer to Facebook. It's going to be more like, hey, you are a user who is a DeFi degen, and you also have a pretty decent social media following, so we want to give you this product for free. Or we want to give you this product and we want you to try out this product, or we want to give you this sort of a discount. So I think it's going to feel closer to like marketing actually is going to be the way that users experience it. But that's still money being transferred to the user instead of money being transferred to this third party. And I think that's the real big shift that Web3 identity is going to lead to.
Such an interesting point there. What's the domains on Unstoppable right now are the most sought after? Would it be ENS, which is .eth for those at home?
So on Unstoppable side, the ones that are selling the best are, I believe .crypto has actually the most registrations. And then I think .nft is a close second. In terms of dollars, .x is also pretty high up there. .x is more expensive. It's kind of the more kind of premium. But in terms of number of registrations, I believe .crypto and then .nft is running quickly behind it.
That's huge. And on the setup side, just for the folks at home, if I want to get, let's say I want full name, Matt Zahab.crypto. And again, I take you to dinner. We go get a couple nice steaks. It's $500 after maybe some steaks and some red vino. And I pull a shit guy move and go, Brad, you owe me, you're paying for dinner tonight. I want $500 in any crypto. From the user side of things, how easy is it to get all of my addresses from whether it's MetaMask, centralized exchange, blah, 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 maybe not centralized exchange, but take your coins off, not your keys, not your coins, set up a ledger or a Trezor or any cold wallet, get those addresses, connect it with your username / domain on Unstoppable Domains. Walk me through the process of how to get locked and loaded from the consumer standpoint.
So we'll make it pretty easy for you. Especially with Ethereum and Polygon addresses. So we'll make it so you can, when you mint the domain, that those are auto attached because we can easily pull that information, and so those can kind of seamlessly attach. Then you do have to go back in and add others. There's some setups we have where a crypto wallet will allow you to just attach essentially all your addresses at once if you want to, like a Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin, whatever. But generally the flow is ETH and Polygon will auto attach, and then you'll copy and paste your Bitcoin address one time, attach it to your domain name, and then you're good.
And that's it. Otherwise you're good to go.
Yeah, it's copy and paste and then press one button. The good news is that you get to verify it. Once you verify it that one time, then after that, when a user goes to pay you with their domain name, you type in the domain name and it'll show a little check mark like, yes, there is a valid Bitcoin address associated with this domain name.
Huge.
If not, you can't send. So it's not like you can like accidentally like you have to type in the domain name wrong, and that has to be a valid domain name in order to send to the wrong person. And it's just a lot easier to check a human readable name. I mean, this is just, machines are
so
great.
Straightforward.
The machines are great, and they can handle 40 characters. Humans can't, because our eyes cannot check all of those random characters. So we need order. We need words that make sense to us, and that's why names are important. And the shorter the name, in some ways, the better, because the easier to make sure that it's the right person.
Well, the whole crypto domain saga and revolution and momentum is sort of mimicked and almost copied the traditional Web2 domain, right? Where it was like, you want generic, broad keywords that can be used for, like Mark Cuban sold a bunch of really good domains. You have your, I'm looking out, you have your arena.eth, your beer.eth, liquor.eth, whatever, right? All your very popular ones. And on top of that, you have the shorter, the better. And then we had the whole ENS revolution. I guess that was back, I want to say early this year. And it wasn't even so much names, it was the numbers. What did you make of the whole numbers thing? I guess I'll give some context first. There was a whole digits for ENS, right? So it would start off and people who got 3 digits, so like 001, 007 went for, I think, 100 grand. And then you had your, 123.eth. And then you had your 4 digits, so 8912.eth. These were all worth a lot of money. I think 4 digits are still worth like 10 grand for 4 random numbers.eth. What's your whole take on that? You think that's here to stay, or was that just a fad and it's going to be toast in a couple of years?
It's hard to say. With traditional domain names, there is some value to number domains, especially internationally. A lot of number domains wind up being brands and things.
Yep.
So there is something to say about numbers. I think it's possible the Web3, it's very hard to say, but I do feel like it also moved into fad territory a bit, and that it's easier to group numbers, like to say like, hey, right. I'm a group of, everybody has a 5-digit number domain, rather than grouping names, words, and things like that, which maybe might not fit into standard groups in quite the same way. But if you look at traditional domains, shorter names probably are better than shorter, than the equivalent character number of numbers. So generally speaking, crypto Twitter loves fads. So we do get a little, and it lasted. We saw it too. Like there were like crazy numbers of number registrations on our side on Unstoppable domains as well. And it did burn out a bit after a couple months. It may come back, but I suspect that there's just a lot of other categories out there that are relevant to users. So hard to say, but it was fun.
No, it was a good rip. Folks, quick break. Got to give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. That is Prime XBT. We love Prime XBT, as we've been using for a hot minute. Why? Because they offer a great product at a very reasonable price. Doesn't matter if you are a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. You get 50%, that's 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. The promo code is CryptoNews50. That's CryptoNews50, CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with Brad. Brad, I got a question here. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. How the hell is GoDaddy not offered to buy you guys out yet? Or one of the big domain name companies? Or perhaps they have and I don't know about it, but any rumblings on that?
I think this is a little bit the innovator's dilemma, And I think the real issue is that traditional domain names are really tools for businesses to build their web presence. And so their market is really like small businesses up to big businesses. And our market are end users, are consumers building their digital identity. So they've got a couple 100 million potential users. we've got 4 billion, the whole internet. But we're not really focused on the website use case. We're focused on payments and we're focused on identity. We're focused on login and authentication. So there's actually like not a ton of overlap today between the customer bases and between what you're using with domains. So surprisingly, they're not actually the closest to what we're doing. I would say that the social media companies are actually getting a little bit closer. Twitter and Reddit, et cetera. So they're kind of the ones that are trying to go after sort of a similar market. And I'm sure you saw Reddit avatars.
Yeah.
That is a form of identity. You have you would want to have a username and you would want to have, a digital profile picture, which is kind of like what the avatars are. So they're working on a piece of, kind of a future, decentralized social media. So those are the companies that are probably a little bit closer. We'll see what the traditional domain name companies do. I think that jumping from being a SMB product to being a consumer product is a big leap. And that's actually why they have focused on it less. They are paying attention. And there is a awesome domain name conference every year that we speak at called NamesCon. And we've been there since 2018 telling the community that this is going to be the future of domain names. And, they laughed at us in 2018 and 2019 and were maybe like a little bit curious in 2020 and 2021. And in 2022, everyone's like, yeah, this is inevitable. Like this is definitely the future. So there's a lot of awareness now and there's a lot of poking around that I think you're going to start to see a lot of traditional domain registrars get into the space in some way in terms of, selling domain names, et cetera. So I think you're going to see it likely in 2023, but it's still a stretch for them because it's a different customer base. They just need new products because that industry is not.
That's what I mean, though. And that's where does it make sense to acquire the leader in the space who's offering those new products to a brand new subset of consumers? But again, you're right. It's a lot of the times the risk does not outweigh the reward.
It might be the right move for them. It's just, it's just tough when you're the big incumbent and you're sitting on this crazy cash cow, to say like, should I give it up? I mean, I think it's probably the same thing that's happening with like, Google and all the AI chat stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people at Google that were like, hey, this AI chat stuff might kill us. We should do something about it. And then somebody else says, yeah, but money's falling from the sky over here. So like, do you really want to stop the sky money? Like in the meantime? And I think that's a really, I think it's a tough position to be in. It's like it's a champagne problem that can kind of get you stuck.
I assume you've been fucking around with ChatGPT and like DALL-E and all those.
It's pretty
How
fun,
much
yeah.
fun? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any unique or under the table use cases that haven't been making the rounds on Twitter or LinkedIn or Insta or anything like that?
I don't feel like I'm the expert on this, so I don't think I'm going to have any unique insight. But I think there's just a lot of writing that happens that is sort of not in the, so to speak, like creative category. That's in the kind of functional category. And, I find myself doing it a lot. I find team members doing it a lot. And I think that these tools can really just eliminate that, like supercharge that. And then we're going to kind of get back to the sort of, creative writing will be the thing, creative ideation, I should say, will be the thing that we humans can contribute. And then a lot of the rest of the stuff, the mundane stuff, like, let's just press a button and, and crank it out. Like that just seems great. Like it's basically like the AI just figured out how to do all the boring writing for us. So that's
the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bit of a weird one here for you. We'll get into some fun questions. If you could own any domain in the world, cannot be a company and cannot be a name. So it can't be something like Tesla.eth or, or Saudi Aramco.com or whatever. Well, we'll go for .crypto for the sake of ease here. Cannot be a first name and cannot be a company name. What generic keyword are you going for a .com or .crypto? What's he jumping at? Anything in the world.
So it's definitely going to be a finance and probably crypto term. I think Bitcoin would be up there.
Yeah.
I think pay would be up there. I think all of these these like kind of generic finance terms, I think would be really, really high up there. That'd probably be close to the top of the list. I don't know what the most popular first name is in the world, but whatever the
Mohammed.
globally most popular first name, that's probably interesting.
Mohammed, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Mohammed by a landslide too.
Okay.
That'd be bananas. Next up for Unstoppable, what do you guys have on the docket? It seems like you guys have a new integration or partnership every single week. We'd love to see that, keep the momentum going, especially in a bear market. But what do you guys have on tap for 2023 and beyond?
That's a really big focus because it's actually easier to do integrations during bear market because people are less busy. Like during bull market, everyone's just trying to make sure that their website doesn't go down because there's new users just showing up. And Unstoppable had this problem too, where like it's hard to invest in longer term things when it's just crazy like that. And once we all get to kind of take a breather during bear market, now all of a sudden it's easier to do integration. So we're talking to all sorts of companies that maybe we wouldn't have been talking to 9 months or a year ago. So that's a huge focus for us during the bear market. On the tech side, building out more tools for the digital profiles. And we want you to be able to really feel like this is kind of like the digital you, that you're going to be able to add all sorts of information and continue to enrich your profile so that it's more useful in apps and dApps. So those are the two big areas.
And the end goal of Unstoppable, is it literally to onboard the masses to Web3 and to give everyone a platform where they can own, monetize, and control their data?
Yeah, we want all 4 billion internet users to be using domains as their usernames, controlling their own data, and logging in on the internet and paying and doing all the things that they do today, but in a self-sovereign way.
I mean, we'd love to see that. Brad, what a treat, man. This has been a lot of fun. A couple more rapid fire ones for you here. Why the name? It's such a good name, but why Unstoppable Domains? Like it's unorthodox, like most people literally don't pick you guys are in the domain game and you chose to add domain to it. Like it's unique, it's unorthodox, but it hits so nice. Like, yeah, why'd you name it that?
I mean, we were playing around with names and we came across this concept of like, what is really unique about this technology? And I think the thing that's really unique about this technology is ownership. And we really wanted to, and I would just say in general, I think Web3, the value of Web3 is really about ownership. That the value of crypto, I think, is really about ownership. I own my Bitcoin. I own my Ethereum. And the same thing is true for your Web3 domain name. The same thing is true for your NFT art. It all comes down to this idea of ownership. And we wanted to highlight that. We wanted that to be the thing that stuck in your head, which is that I own this thing. And so Unstoppable felt like a concept like a powerful version of that concept. And I think that if we want to say like, how do we want people to feel in this new internet? I would say empowered. And that's why Unstoppable felt like the right term.
It's good. It's like I said, it's unique and it hits. Good shit there. Last question. Hot Take Factory. We're jumping in, put our shit kicking boots on, and it's time for Brad to give us a couple hot takes, something that only Brad believes in, that most other people do not. Can be sports, food, politics, space, AI, you name it. What are a couple of Brad hot takes? You must have a couple.
Let's see. Well, I only eat once per day. I think maybe already.
We spoke about that. That's so cool. Folks, Brad eats one meal between 6 and 7 p.m.
Uh-huh.
Just dinner. And the benefits just keeps you clear, keeps you light, focused all day long.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it's the healthiest, but it is the best for mental clarity for me. So I can just go throughout the day. I never feel tired. I just feel very energized and I'm able to think clearly. If I eat a big lunch or even a small lunch, then, sometimes I slow down for an hour and I feel like I lost that time. So I just try to save it till the end of the day.
Why do you feel like it might not be the healthiest for you?
Well, I'm told that eating all at once later on in the day, like eating large amounts later on in the day, might not be the best. So I'm still kind of playing around with how to do it. I know this is best for mental clarity, but maybe it's not the best for, say, weight gain or something like that. And it's never been a problem. But I'm 39 now, and I think it gets a little harder over time. So may need to adjust a little bit, but it's definitely worked for me for the past 15 years.
I feel like your gut and your innards thank you for that as well. Like if you're only eating once a day, you're not working them that much. Are you a black coffee kind of guy throughout the morning and afternoon?
A little bit of half and half. So yeah, so I do get some calories through coffee in the morning.
Love that. Brad, what a treat, man. Really appreciate you coming on. You guys have been one of my favorite consumer-facing crypto companies for a while now. You guys do things the right way and continue to haul ass and build and puts a smile on my face. And I'm proud of you, the team. Really appreciate you coming on and hope to have you on again. Until next time, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you and Unstoppable online and on socials?
Absolutely. So I would check out Unstoppable Web on Twitter. That's the best place to hear ideas about Web3 domain names and know what's going on. And then I would also encourage everybody to check out unstabledomains.com and actually play around with it, try it out and see what it's like. And that's the best way to understand. Words sometimes can feel abstract, but once you see it, I think it'll make a lot more sense.
Yeah, very clean as well. Brad, really appreciate this, man. Thank you, and looking forward to the next time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Folks, what an episode with Brad Cam from Unstoppable Domains. If you're looking for a Web3 name, head on over and get onboarded into the world of Web3. Huge thanks to Brad. He was dropping knowledge bombs left, right, and center. We love to see that. To the team, love you guys. Thanks for everything. Eustace, my amazing sound editor. Appreciate you as always. And to the listeners, thanks guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now. We'll talk soon.